"Sit down. This is a courtroom, not your break room." The prosecutor's voice cracked across the gallery like a slammed door, and every head turned toward the man in gray coveralls, standing quietly near the back rail, a mop bucket still parked just outside the doors. The janitor did not flinch. He did not raise his voice or reach for the rail to steady himself. He said only, "I have something the court needs to hear," and folded his hands the way a man folds them when he's said harder things to harder rooms than this one. The bailiff froze mid-step. The defense attorney's pen stopped on the page, ink pooling into a small black dot. The defendant, a 19-year-old boy 3 minutes from a guilty verdict, turned around in his chair for the first time in the entire trial. What none of them knew, what the prosecutor standing over him with his chest puffed out did not know, was whose evidence had actually built this case, 31 years before this exact morning, and what was about to happen to his own career in the next 9 minutes. Somewhere in that gallery sat a truth heavy enough to collapse the entire prosecution. But first, rewind 14 hours, to a courthouse hallway that still smelled like floor wax and old paper. Marcus Webb had worked the night shift at the county courthouse for 6 years, mopping the same marble floors he used to walk in a very different uniform entirely. He kept his routine small on purpose. Empty the bins on 3, buff the rotunda until it threw back the ceiling lights, lock the evidence room at 11 sharp, and be home before his wife woke for her own shift. In his coverall pocket, he carried a scratched brass detective's shield, badge number 214, worn smooth on one edge from 3 decades of thumbing it in his pocket before every hard knock on every hard door. He never wore it, he carried it. Some things aren't for showing off, they're for reminding you who you were on the days the world decides you're nobody. He knew this courthouse better than anyone breathing in it, every squeaky floor panel, every judge's coffee order, every case file that had ever passed through the evidence room. He still, out of old habit, checked twice a shift. He did not know the young prosecutor trying this case, a man named Preston Vance, 34 years old, hungry for a conviction that would get his name in front of the DA's re-election committee before the primary. Vance looked at the janitor standing near the rail with his hand half raised, looked at his gray coveralls, his mop bucket parked outside the doors, and decided, in the space of 2 seconds, that whatever this man thought he had to say could not possibly matter more than closing arguments already written on the legal pad in front of him. "This can't be happening right now," Vance said, loud enough for the jury box to hear, his voice sharp with the particular panic of a man watching his own case slip sideways. "Bailiff, remove him, we're in session. This is completely out of order." The bailiff hesitated, glancing toward the judge for a ruling that hadn't come yet. Marcus stepped forward anyway. He always did. When it counted, calm was cheaper than a scene, and he'd learned that lesson on streets far rougher than this marble floor. Vance closed the distance himself, snapped, "Sir, this isn't your courtroom, and that badge in your pocket doesn't mean anything to anybody in here, you're a janitor," and reached out to shove Marcus back toward the doors. The badge slipped from Marcus's pocket in the scuffle and hit the marble floor, spinning once before it landed face up, catching the light. Vance looked down at it, saw the number stamped into the brass, plain as anything, and brought his heel down on it anyway, grinding it half under his shoe like it was nothing at all. It was not nothing, but what Vance didn't know, what nobody in that gallery knew yet, was that badge 214 had been issued to the lead detective who cracked the original 1994 case this trial's evidence had been pulled from, the same case file sitting unopened and mislabeled on the prosecutor's own table. Marcus knelt, picked up the scratched shield, and said nothing for a moment. He didn't need to, because his mentor, a captain named Ruth Alvarez, had pinned that same badge on his chest the day he made detective and told him at a diner booth 31 years ago, "Let them underestimate you. Calm is the one thing they can't take off your chest." Marcus had never needed that lesson more than he did right now, standing in coveralls in a courtroom that used to be his. The judge banged the gavel once, hard, and asked Marcus his name for the record. He gave it. Then he gave his badge number, his 31 years with the department, and the fact that he had personally logged the evidence bag currently sitting, unopened and mislabeled, on the prosecutor's table, evidence that cleared the defendant, not condemned him. Vance's face drained of color in real time, in front of the exact same jury he'd just told to ignore the man in coveralls. 3 decades ago, Detective Marcus Webb had built the chain of custody system this very courthouse still used. He had trained the property clerk who mislabeled that bag. He knew, before anyone opened it, exactly what was inside because he was the one who'd sealed it. The judge called a recess within the hour. The mislabeled evidence, once opened under supervision, confirmed an alibi the original defense attorney had never once been given access to. Within the week, the DA's office dropped all charges, and the case captured on 3 phones from the gallery passed 4 million views by the weekend, with the county's own oversight board opening a formal inquiry into how evidence had sat mislabeled for months without anyone catching it. The county paid the defendant's family a settlement close to $300,000, which Marcus quietly helped them understand how to use, sitting at their kitchen table with a legal pad the same way Ruth Alvarez had once sat with him. Vance was placed on leave within the month and did not return to the DA's office. 2 evidence clerks were let go by the following quarter, and the courthouse rewrote its intake protocol so no evidence bag could be sealed without 2 verified signatures, a rule now taught, ironically, in the same training room where Marcus still, some mornings before his shift starts, empties the bins on 3. 5 years later, Marcus stood in that same rotunda, under the same ceiling lights he'd buffed 1,000 nights before, pinning a small brass replica of badge 214 onto the chest of a criminal justice student he'd mentored through a scholarship fund built with his settlement money, a program that had, by then, sent 11 young people through school who'd never have made it there otherwise, 3 of them now working in the very courthouse that once tried to walk him out of it. He still keeps the original shield, dented on one edge, in his coverall pocket, right where it's always ridden, next to a folded photo of Ruth Alvarez at that old diner booth. Some scars you keep on purpose, not to remember what was done to you, but to remember that you were still standing when it was over. If this story moved you, hit like, share it with someone who needs the reminder, and subscribe for more stories like this one. But first, answer this. Have you ever stayed calm in a moment that demanded you scream? Here's what really gets me about this one. It's not the recess, and it's not the apology. It's that Marcus never once raised his voice, not even when that badge hit the marble floor. So tell me in the comments, what's the one thing in your life you'd still carry quietly, even after somebody tried to grind it under their heel?